Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson. Today we're listening to Deadly Last Steps.
We find out there's been a female employee at the Lexington County Sheriff's Office found murdered in her bathroom.
She was positioned in the tub, like arms together, almost like a coffin type thing.
That kicks us into high gear. It was go, go, go. The more quickly you can move, the less likely you are to lose evidence.
There's a guilt to it that you feel like I should have known better, I should have seen better, I could have prevented this somehow.
We all live, breathe, digital everything. Someone who consciously unplugs from all of that is very abnormal.
I think in his mind, he was committing the perfect crime where he couldn't be tracked.
Everyone wanted to know why, because she really had it all going for her, and it was robbed from her.
As a cop, it is a very different experience sitting in court as a victim compared to an officer who's been doing it for 20 years. But when it's part of your family, it's real.
Digital evidence in any trial is critical to a jury because someone can lie, someone can delete their search history, someone can delete their call log, all of which we saw in this case. With all the crime shows on TV and the internet, people are so smart. They know what we look for evidence, and he did too.
We, the jury, by unanimous consent, find the defendant guilty.
Lindsay worked at the Lexington County Sheriff's Department in our technology division. She started back in 2011. She would help officers when they're having problems with their computers. She could help to do installs, she could help to do software and debugging. Lindsay was a very regimented person at this point in her life. She watched what she ate. She made sure that she was getting her morning workouts. Our office has a shower at it, so she would hit her morning workout. She would get into the shower. She'd blare this loud music and get ready, and she'd be sitting at her desk, 8 o'clock, beaming and happy and ready to go. My desk was right next to hers, and she would come in there, and you just felt like the sun was shining on you in your little cubicle. And on this Tuesday, the team came in, and there was no music, and there was nothing in the hallways. At 8 o'clock, she's not sitting at her desk, and that isn't right. It's not Lindsay. So as time goes by, they try to call and text. They're not getting an answer back. And they're asking me, have I talked to Lindsay? Do I know where she's at? So I start texting and calling her. I'm not getting anything back either. And Lindsay's not the type of person that is not going to text you back. So now that's making me more and more nervous.
Two of her coworkers show up to her house to try to see what is going on. Did she oversleep? Why is she not at work? There's got to be an explanation. They show up, her car's in the driveway. Being law enforcement officers, they touch her car to see if the engine is hot. It's cold. That means the car has been sitting there for a while. As they make their way to the back door, they notice it's ajar, and it looks like someone has forced their way inside. As soon as they come in, the only thing they hear is running water coming from the bathroom. So they go to the bathroom, and the curtain to the tub is drawn. So they slowly pull back the curtain, and that is when her coworkers see Lindsay laying in the tub coffin style with a huge 6-inch gash to her neck. They immediately cut off the water, get out of the house, and call for backup.
My boss actually calls and says, "Hey, look, the word's come back now. I want you to know everything's not okay."
Right here, say hi.
Hey, Lindsay.
Hi, Daddy.
Lindsay was a great daughter, very outgoing. She's very happy, independent, and strong. She had a lot of friends. Everybody liked her. Couldn't ask anything better of a daughter. She loved computers. When she finished school, got her 4-year degrees when she got into her IT field with the sheriff's office. And she had big plans for her future. Her next step was going to be to apply for the FBI. That's what she wanted to do. And it was all taken away from us so fast. On March 14, 2017, I was at work in Virginia. I was in a work environment where I couldn't have a cell phone. So they called me in and told me the news, and I immediately broke down. The only thing I could think of is, somebody had broken into her house. Who else would have done something like this?
So the officers that were on scene know that Lindsay works with them, and we don't want a conflict. See, and what we called in is our state law enforcement division.
The State Law Enforcement Division, commonly known as SLED, is a statewide agency. And we provide manpower and technical assistance to local agencies if they need help. We have agents all over the state, so I think I got there within like 20 or 30 minutes. Entryway towards the front of the house, there were a ton of groceries all out on the floor. And just like a chaotic mess, essentially. It's indicating some kind of struggle took place. You would not just set the groceries down this way. They were thrown. And amongst all of that chaos and all of those things on the ground, crime scene was able to find some pieces of latex gloves, like the tips had been torn off or ripped off. There were just a few shreds here or there. Initially, of course, with the door being breached, our thoughts were it was a robbery. But then when you go in her bedroom, there's jewelry in there, her cell phone was found, things that, people could steal but didn't. So that didn't really make a lot of sense. Odds of a random home invasion in a quiet, generally safe neighborhood like the one she lived in, historically, is very, very rare. Not likely. And so there was a chance that this was something targeted. And as you come up to the bathroom, she was laying in the bathtub. She had some gym-type shorts on. She did not have a top or a sports bra on. Investigators find clothes that are still wet in the washer inside Lindsay's house. They find her wallet inside one of the pockets. And so the theory starts to become whoever is responsible for this tried to destroy any kind of DNA or any other kind of physical evidence that might be left on the clothes. One of the things that we noted almost immediately was her fingernails had been cut very, very, call it to the quick, very, very short. Her neck had been actually cut. It was a very, very brutal, very deep cut. To me, as an investigator, when you see something that forceful, it seems very angry to me. It seems very personal. To me, it just felt like pure rage. In the same room where her body was found, we found her Fitbit that was removed from her body. It was placed on the counter, which she wore religiously to monitor her health, track her fitness levels, and her goals for the day. And we thought that maybe it could tell us what her last steps were. When did it stop recording Had she gone to the gym? Had she worked out? Were there steps, coming from home? Like, when did this stop? When did it start? We need to look at this evidence. We need to lock this down immediately. Lindsay Lee worked in the IT department of the Lexington County Sheriff's Office. Obviously, the department could not investigate the murder of one of its own.
The way I was brought up in law enforcement is the team that you work with is your squad, and make them your family because you depend on them to make life decisions. It was so difficult to not want to be involved or not ask questions or to make sure the case was going well. Then guilt starts flowing of, could I have done to prevent it? Could I have been able to say, we want the person who did this to get caught and to pay for what he did.
From the minute Lindsay's body was discovered, we all started. It was go, go, go. It was like, hey, you need to do the crime scene. Hey, we need you to canvass. We need you to talk to witnesses. Let's get our intel. You need to start running social media, doing everything we can. We found the Fitbit sitting up on the counter in the bathroom. Lindsay's last steps were registered, right before 9 o'clock that evening. And there was nothing after that. So that was the first piece to narrow down the time frame of her death.
We both had Fitbits at that time. They had their own application that you could share along with, and you could encourage each other and like your workouts. Lindsay, because she was so crazy about numbers and her math and her macros, and Lindsay was so attuned into her health and her food, her Fitbit was perfect. When Lindsay started working at the sheriff's department, she was overweight and she wanted to do better. And so we were walking, jogging, and then jogging and running. And then at some point, she got a trainer and started to work on judo and weightlifting. And then she was just skyrocketing. Her health, her fitness, her self-worth, all of those things became greater and greater.
She lost over 100 pounds within a year. I couldn't believe it. It was such a transformation.
Lindsay Lee is big into fitness, and ultimately the Fitbit did help us confirm Lindsay's last steps before it stopped recording. We have her leave work. We have her going to work out at the gym, and then we have her leaving and going to Walmart. We had the receipt from our crime scene, and that matched up with the items that were found on the floor. We just wanted to, make a definite time frame to make sure that she didn't go anywhere else, that there was nothing else that we were missing. So we had another agent go to Walmart and start pulling the video surveillance. That is really a huge move because a lot of times with these video surveillance at companies, they loop back over. So you lose those recordings if you don't jump on it. So we've got her on video. You can see her walking through the aisles. Doesn't look concerned, doesn't look like someone's following her, isn't looking over her shoulder, just going about her day. You see her checking out, and off she goes. So there's nothing in that surveillance video of Lindsay Lee that shows her concerned at any point about something that might be going on around her. Because she was wearing the shorts were black gym style shorts, and she was found in black gym style shorts. She was wearing a hoodie, and a hoodie of the same color was exactly what we found in the washing machine. You can actually see from the parking lot video her getting in her vehicle, driving off in the direction of her home. Our indication was she was attacked. As soon as she came home from grocery, she didn't get a chance to put the fridge, and that was, where things are turning her. So we had a team pulling video surveillance. We had another team interviewing Lindsay's. We had another team interviewing Lindsay's coworkers. And almost immediately, we found out about Jason Lee.
Jason Lee was her first boyfriend that I knew of anyway. And that was her husband. She got married in 2010.
Lindsay's family really enjoy being around Jason, and they feel like Lindsay has found her soulmate, Jason. And you can see that when you watch their wedding video. Jason is visibly crying as Lindsay comes down the aisle to meet him. Very, very emotional guy.
When Lindsay came to me and talked to me about getting healthier, she also mentioned that Jason wanted to be a part of this too. I knew that they wanted to try to work together to lose some weight, and they wanted to try to make something that they could support each other on, but he just didn't pick it up or didn't continue to put the work in it like Lindsay was doing.
She took to it, and she did much better than Jason was doing at it. I think that made him jealous. And from what I could tell, I think that's what started the downhill turn in the marriage.
So at time of Lindsay's murder, she had been separated from Jason for 11 months and was 1 month out of her divorce being filed.
Jason tells Lindsay, you know what, you can have the house. I'm going to get an apartment in Greenville, which is 2 hours from there. He goes on Facebook not long after he moves up to Greenville and posts a new relationship status. He's got a new girlfriend.
We were like, wow, great. So he's going to move on, leave Lindsay alone, let her life, and he'll be totally out of the picture.
I think that's good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll send you an email real quick. Awesome. Thank you. So one of the things we look at with victims, we always ask, are they dating anyone? Are they seeing anyone? And we were told she was seeing Graham Hockley. Graham Hockley and her are very close. She goes to his gym. He's right there on the front lines with her, helping her achieve this brand new, almost outlook on life, in addition to her fitness and her diet. So he is a huge part of her life. Not only was he close with her, we learned that he was the last person to see her alive when she left his gym the night of March 13th before she headed to Walmart.
I never thought this was a random act of violence.
Someone that knows her and knows her well is responsible for this. We wanted to talk to Graham and find out what were you doing, who's to say you didn't have anything to do with this. We need to roll him in or roll him out one way or the other. A lot was happening behind the scenes with this investigation, and it was moving very quickly. Investigators are looking for everybody closest to Lindsay. So Graham Hockley becomes a potential person of interest. So Graham Hockley is her gym trainer. They trained together every day. They were really good friends. We interviewed Graham Hockley. He tells us they had sort of a relationship per se, but it wasn't a boyfriend-girlfriend thing. They had decided they were better off as friends. Every day after work, she would train with him. He confirmed that she did come into the gym like she normally does. As investigators are interviewing Graham Hockley, he says, I tried to call her to find out that she'd made it home safely. He hands his phone over to investigators who were able to look at some of his call log, and he did, in fact, call Lindsay, but never got a response. There's a little bit of communication text-wise, and then after that, it goes silent. And it was unusual for her not to respond. He said she always returned texts, she always returned phone calls. Graham Hockley is very cooperative. He makes time for these investigators. He gives his DNA. He provides his cell phone records. He is doing whatever he can to help the investigation. One of the things we looked at was, who gains in her death, and he actually took a huge loss. She was very helpful in his business. She brought in a lot of clients, drawing in female clients. So that was what was so key for us. And he was devastated when he found out about her death. After we spoke with him, we were able to rule him out.
A few hours after Lindsay was discovered deceased in her residence, we got a call from the Midlands region of SLED. Told us that her estranged husband, Jason Lee, lived in Greenville.
We called the upstate office. Hey, can you make contact with him? First of all, we want you to do a death notification. Somebody could talk to Jason, see what her ex-husband has to say.
They had confirmed that he was at work. It's probably a 10-minute drive from the SLED office in Greenville. We drove over there. We asked to speak to Jason. He came outside on the front porch. We advised him that Lindsay was found deceased, and he immediately let out a big wail and said, how did she die? It was a car accident. And we asked him, said, is there a place we can go talk? It's private. He asked his manager, lives downstairs. There's an office down there. We sat in there and talked to him. He told us he relocated to the Greenville area and Lindsay separated. I guess he wanted to make a new start and got a job as a locksmith up there.
His account was that it was a normal work day, and he had to work late. He was really exhausted. His foot was hurting, so he came home, took a pill and something to make him sleep. He watched something on a streaming device and fell asleep. And that was his account for the day of Lindsay's death.
Probably about 5 minutes into the interview, he brings up a guy that he had hired, personal trainer Graham Hawk, to assist him with losing weight, and he got Lindsay in the gym. He blamed Graham for their breakup, and it caused him during the interview to almost get in a rage talking about it. He was showing all the hallmarks of an extremely jealous person. Then another thing he talked about that kind of raised our suspicions was he said that he would remodel the bathroom to try to fix their relationship. He spent like $5,000 on a credit card to fix it up.
Hopes that by sinking some money into that project, doing it the way she wants it, that it will win her back. This plan doesn't work. Lindsay decides she's going to sell the house and move on.
We noticed some things too physically when we were interviewing him. Some scratches to his face.
It was almost like a linear scratch. One here, and then like another scratch here to his face. He said, hey, how did you get it scratched?
He explained to us that he had dry shaved, and that's how the scratches on his face. These weren't they weren't typical scratches from shaving. They weren't cuts. These were actual linear scratches about the size that someone would have from a fingernail.
At this point, we've got some concerns about the history of Jason and Lindsay and their background, and we start finding out some money things. Jason is in the process of being evicted from his apartment. His car is close to getting repossessed. He's maxed out his credit cards. He owes Lindsay about $1,300 by the time the divorce is set to be finalized. In the state of South Carolina, typically, if you are still married at the time of someone's death, you potentially, most likely, get all those assets. Jason Lee would have gotten the proceeds from the house that she had on the market for sale. You can do some more digging, but he's making himself a suspect at this point.
Train's husband, Jason Lee, we had some real feelings that he might be responsible for the murder.
All of a sudden, we have all these things kind of snowballing. And our wonderful agents in the upstate, they were calling us and saying, hey, he says his personal car, he doesn't know where it is. You know, he hasn't reported it missing. It may be repossessed, but he doesn't know where it is. And he's got scratches on his face. Jason drives a blue Kia Rio, and he claims it went missing on the night of the 13th, which was also the night before Lindsay was found murdered. That sends up an immediate red flag.
He asked him, does he mind us looking around in his work truck, because that's what he drives all the time. Thought maybe if he was responsible, he drove it to Columbia to commit murder. But the GPS on the workbench showed that it was in that location, in the upstate area. We asked him to come to the SLED office with us so we could download his phone. The digital information we got at that point showed us that prior to the crime and just after the crime, there's a 12-hour period where it's turned off and nothing happened.
You can see he uses his phone all the time, he texts all the time, and, you know, all of a sudden he just goes dark for this whole period surrounding her death. And as soon as she's discovered, you know, he's back up and running again.
That's considered a digital black hole. But in a situation like this in a crime, when it occurs prior to the crime, just after the crime, it raises the interest of law enforcement.
One of his things was, you know, I was at home watching television and threw that out as a possible, you know, alibi. Once we start looking into it to confirm it together, you know, like many streaming services, if you don't hit any buttons, a lot of them will just continue and autoplay the next episode, and that actually, when you start checking into it, could be on for hours. So that just kind of confirmed it, but I think that really wasn't an alibi for us. That, you know, that didn't help prove in one way or the other. One of the things he told our agents was that the day that we found her, he had gotten up early that morning at 6 a.m. and he wasn't feeling well, so he had to go get some shaving supplies and had to go get some medicine at Walmart.
Next day, we went to Walmart, pulled surveillance footage, and we were able to find footage that showed him at the Walmart. This is the morning that Lindsay's body was discovered. We see Jason on the surveillance footage walking out of the store. And we see Jason in his work truck.
We knew that if he had done something to Lindsay, he wouldn't have used the work vehicle because it had GPS in it. But then you see him pull his work van up to another car on the outskirts of the parking lot. And he gets out. You can see him walk to the other car. He does something. Not sure what it looks like. He's taking the license plate off of the vehicle. He gets back in his work truck and leaves the parking lot. Lo and behold, in the Walmart parking lot, they find his personal car. So it had not been repossessed. He said he didn't know where his personal vehicle was, but clearly he did. Got him on camera.
As we're getting ready to process the car, a pickup truck comes by with some people in it, and Jason's one.
Instantly, alarm bells started going off. It really makes you wonder what is going on here. So Jason gets out of the car and immediately starts yelling at the officers. Jason got very defensive and very angry about it and started screaming expletives.
He's demanding that why we were looking in his car. He got belligerent enough that we had to tell him that he had to leave the area.
think he hoped that we would never find that car. Why are you trying to distance yourself from this car? Why are you trying to keep law enforcement from looking at this car? On cases like this, people and their actions tell you things, and you've got red flags over here, red flags over here, red flags over here. Now we actually have Lindsay's soon-to-be ex-husband, Jason Lee, actually lying about his car going missing, and it's only in the time frame of when Lindsay was murdered, and it's only in the car that he knows doesn't have GPS. So that for us was huge.
It's about 85 miles or so from Greenville to the location she was murdered at. That he actually thought not having a car. We probably think he couldn't go to Columbia because GPS from his work truck would show us it was in Greenville. We had to search the car to make sure there's any forensic evidence that they could collect it. Found clippings that they thought might be fingernail clippings in the floorboard. The nail clippings were taken to the lab. Lindsay's fingernails had been trimmed at the crime scene, and there was no fingernails found at the crime scene. If you find a victim that has their fingernails cut off, a lot of times that indicates that there might have been a struggle, that they might have scratched their assailant. Jason had scratches to his face. He knew that she scratched him, and he was trying to destroy any evidence that might be under her fingernails by taking that. Had we been a couple hours later, chances are they would have been gone. The car would have been gone. It raised some big flags.
So all of this is starting to kind of come together. We have a computer crimes unit. Those guys are kind of like, call them the Geek Squad on steroids because they know everything. They actually do the analysis on Jason's cell phone, and there's a ton of data on it. The things we find is, there's no activity on his phone, there's no search history. We saw no web history prior to March 15th, and the day we found her was March 14th. So that, again, was another red flag for us that was concerning. With all the crime shows on TV and internet, people are so smart. They know what we look for evidence, and he did too. He knew to cut his phone off because, we're going to analyze that.
Someone can lie. Someone can delete their search history. Someone can delete their call log. Investigators are able to recover that information, and that information doesn't lie.
The day after Lindsay's death, we found several things that he had searched. Defense attorneys, the media coverage of her death, the listing for the house that was for sale that she had lived in, little bits and pieces of information. Then we learned that Jason has a Fitbit, and I went back and analyzed the prior month.
A Fitbit is also an important piece of digital evidence because not only does it track your movement, your steps, but it also helps to establish patterns. Does this person wear their Fitbit daily? Does that make it then odd that it wasn't on or was inactive for 12 hours? So it's not just about tracking your movement that day in particular, but were you not moving when you should have been moving? And what I saw with that Fitbit, what I learned from the Fitbit in the prior month leading up to her death, is he wore it all the time. He would wear it at night. He would even wear it several steps in the middle of the night as if he had gone to the restroom or got something out of the fridge. He wore it all the time. He never was without it more than 6 hours. Well, surrounding her death is a black hole. Again, we had no data for the Fitbit. And that was concerning because we knew if he was at home sleeping, watching a streaming service, as he had said, he would be wearing it like he always did. The timing of it sends up an immediate red flag. The absence of evidence is sometimes just as good as actual, present evidence. Why would this one day he not be?
There's no explanation for why it's like that. he was trying to hide stuff.
It's starting to make sense. It's starting to turn into a puzzle where all the pieces fit. So where Jason's going dark and we can't track his whereabouts, it's exactly when Lindsay goes dark and she ends up dead. Who would have ever thought that a Fitbit would be so crucial in this case? In less than 3 days, we were able to make an arrest in Lindsay Lee's murder. We got a team together in Greenville, and they were standing by, and we had arrest warrants in hand. It was go, go, go.
Myself and 4 other agents went to her estranged husband, Jason Lee's apartment, went up, loudly knocked on his door. We heard him inside, and we told him to come to the door. It took him a little while to get to the door, to the point that we were getting ready to kick the door because we didn't know what he was doing. And we explained to him that he was under arrest. No question about why we were arresting him, anything like that. His silence kind of was unusual. Usually people will question you if they didn't have anything to do with it. But I think he knew what we were there for.
3 days after Lindsay was killed, my other daughter, Krista, called me and let me know that they had arrested Jason. And that was another shocker. He was the last person at the time that I would have thought could ever do something like that. And then I started finding out the details, and I'm like, wow, he did it. Yeah, no doubt after that in my mind.
Digital evidence has become the new digital witness force. We have Lindsay's Fitbit that helped us determine her last steps. The video surveillance that shows him actually in the Walmart parking lot going up to his personal car, this black hole where Jason's cell phone, his Fitbit, his internet history gets dark. And all these pieces start coming together, all the digital evidence, and it's just starting to make sense. It's starting to turn into a puzzle where all the pieces fit. We have all this stuff, and then also we have DNA.
They found Jason's blood on the nail clippings found in his car. His DNA was also found inside the tips from located at the crime scene.
Putting him there in that house in conjunction with just going completely dark for the time surrounding her death was huge. It took about 2 years until this case went to trial. I think people were relieved to finally see it come to trial and hopefully get some justice by the end of it.
Prosecutors say there's not only physical DNA evidence linking Jason Lee to the killing, but discrepancies in his story.
Didn't know how to react. When we saw him come in and sit down,
You saw no emotion from a man who was facing life in prison. None. Never one tear fell out of Jason Lee's eyes in that trial. People were really engrossed with knowing what exactly led up to this. And really, everyone wanted to know why. Because she really had it all going for her. And it was robbed from her by a man that was supposed to love her. I work a lot of domestic violence cases, and it's very disheartening to see all these young women murdered at the hands of someone who loved them. You know, we tell women, when you leave, it's the most dangerous time. This is what Lindsay was doing. Lindsay was leaving him behind.
I think Jason saw a happy, well-adjusted, empowered woman that he could no longer control. And he saw her moving on with her life, and it bothered him. She didn't need him. She had left him. She was able to take herself. His life was falling apart. And without her, he didn't have anything. And so he decided that no one else was going to have her either.
We got word that Dre had made a decision within an hour, less than an hour.
The thing I have to say is I didn't do it. I will be appealing this, and I will be coming back on appeal. I did not murder Lindsay Lee, and I want that on the record.
Ultimately, Jason Lee was found guilty of murdering Lindsay Lee.
Ended up being a life sentence. He deserves to be where he's at. He lives. And that's where he'll be. He's not getting that. So that's comforting to know.
I was able to say the final words at court for the family. It was emotional. There was no script, and it just flowed out.
You heard the word bubbly by I don't know how many people, and it didn't matter what time you caught her. If you brought her in at 2 o'clock in the morning to work, or you caught her at 7 o'clock in the afternoon, she always was excited. You couldn't take it. He took that from us.
Every time you saw her when she walked into the room, she always had a smile and a twinkle, and it immediately would get in your heart and make you smile. It was infectious. She was a special person, and it's hard not to have her.
I've been looking for a sign. Her family and Olin Saxon, her best friends, came together and they actually developed a foundation in Lindsay's maiden name. And it helps with scholarships, it helps with empowering women. And it was one thing that they could do to kind of honor her name going forward. So that was something that was really nice to see come out of such a horrible thing.
I am getting some shots of you. Okay.
Lindsay very much inspired me many times. When she really got into her fitness and stuff, it definitely inspired me to get going again. Then I went on my own weight loss journey there. And now that I've started again and focused, I think about it all the time. Does she still?